Let's start by understanding the growing threat to corporate misinformation and financial hoaxes. Corporations today are facing significant challenges with misinformation, disinformation, financial hoaxes, fake news. What are some of the most concerning trends that you've?
So if you talk about trend, we've been in that in the PR industry for 10 years. We've helped our clients protect themselves from fake news. I'll explain how after. For 4 years and a half now, nearly five. And what we've seen by studying this is that we used to have one successful misinformation targeting large company per year 15 years ago. We now have one or two per month
Wow.
succeeding. So I would say that just the sheer amount of success there is the main change. The second one, if I go in that direction, would be the not organization, but the fact that we now have two very clear way of attacking company using misinformation that are very separate, that are with two different goals and are very clear. So it's usually one side or the other. And that was not the case before, where, if I remember correctly, one of the largest misinformation that happened, it was on April Fool, was targeting Pfizer. A group of people made a fake press release saying, "Yeah, guys, we're not going to ask money anymore for diabetes medicines." And then Pfizer had to manage that the next day because, of course, it was not their decision. So, but that was a mix of prank, activism, this type of things. And it was a bit of a mix. Now it's very clear. Either you are targeting the markets and you're going to play with the value of a stock and it's going to be for financial reason, or you're going to be what I call an activist, which is you're going to hack the conversation, you're going to hack PR in the intent of having a social impact or to put a company facing a social issue.
Walk through the Adidas case. We outlined it off the top because that's social activism, right?
That
Walk
is, yeah.
through what they did, the tactics that they used, and how did they? What were the impacts, I guess, to Adidas overall?
So for the people who listen to you, Doug, let's just explain what happened, and then I'll rewind to how it happened. So what happened is, I think it was in January, beginning of the year. It was Fashion Week in Berlin. And then a press release came out saying that Adidas was naming a new co-CEO for the company. And that person was actually how you say that? She was a spokesperson for the employee working in Asia. So she was like a working for a syndicate and was representing the employee. So of course, when you are doing shoes and you're producing in countries where labor law is not the same than in Europe or in the rest of the world, when sometimes you've been attacked for using children labor, naming such a CEO would be a bold move
Mm-hmm.
towards changing the way you see society and you see your product. So the way it was done, so that's what happened. And this news was picked up by a few specialized outlets in the fashion industry. The way it was built was easy, and that's usually how every attack on a large company is done when you talk about PR, because you can also do a fake content and put that on social media. But when we talk about real like PR attack, it's like they pretend to be you. They forge a press release with the logo, even sometimes the name of the real press officer, but they'll put a burner phone. They put a fake website where you will find the press release. Like, they fake everything, and then they distribute that content to press, specialized or generalist. And then they hope for that press to pick up, because then the news is real. because then you read your classical newspaper, you read your blog that you trust, but because they duped these people, because they duped the press, then you've got a really big problems on your end because people will trust that information.
I can see the issue there. What were the financial impacts, short term and long term, to
So
Adidas? Do
for
we know?
Adidas in that case, I would say none, because it was not taken by a major financial newspaper.
Mm.
It was really more an industry problem towards the blogs, fashion specialists, a more targeted problem, more B2C than B2B.
Have there been cases where companies have suffered, I would assume, temporary financial setbacks if they're publicly traded? Because once the public catches on that this was a hoax,
I
then
have
the share price should come back.
I have a long list of
Oh
stories
my.
regarding that because, as I
Oh,
said, the main trend is just the sheer amount of production that succeed. So I'm not even talking, it's like an iceberg. What we see, what I am able to see from my place is the one that are above the water. The one
right.
that fail, that are down, I don't see them. So, but even that layer on top has been multiplied by 10 over the last 15 years. So if I to try to answer your concern and your question, yes, if I put something out there in the intent of doing more a financial crime than an activism case, then my goal is to move the price of any asset class or any asset up and down and be able to trade on that change.
Yes.
And that I'm gonna give you a few ones, and I'll keep the one that started everything for later. But one of the last, very funny because it's very famous in the US, fake press release saying Tesla would buy a company called Lithium. Lithium is producing lithium battery. The good thing when you do a fake with Tesla is that there's no PR team. It's actually just Elon Musk. So there's not much to protect. So he actually didn't care or was on the plane or I don't know what happened. But then, of course, everyone wanted to buy some of these shares of that lithium company because Tesla was about to buy it for double the price. So the price peaked. When it was at the top, these guys sold their shares at double the price.
Wow.
And then, of course, a few hours after, the company denied, Tesla denied, and then it went back down.
So how, help me, like investing 101, that would be illegal.
Yes.
Why would they get away with it? Is there no authority that can
Okay.
that
There's
can try?
authorities, but first, it's going to be a tricky one because you can trade that share outside the US if it's a US listed company. So the
Hmm.
company could find one of the bad actors, but it may be difficult for them to grab the person trading. That is when the trade is direct. You buy the share of that company. But there's also a very famous one, I think 2 years and a half ago, and in a fake press release came out using a wire distribution system, end up on the real website of Walmart saying that Walmart would adopt uh, Litecoin in their shop the next day. And of course, when Walmart do a financial move, it moves the needle a lot. So
Hmm.
Litecoin went up 20%. Litecoin is a money, sorry, not a blockchain money, but uh, is not an actual currency. It's a cryptocurrency.
Hmm.
So you cannot see who owns that crypto. So the person bought this Litecoin, used the hack leveraging Walmart, sold them, and it's not possible to track them.
So this is an example where corporations are impacted by this stuff, but quite frankly, you and me, as people who develop savings throughout our
Yeah.
lives, more and more investors are taking control of their own investing with online trading. here's a great opportunity. I'm going to get in on this, or I'm going to sell here. You could wipe out your entire savings by gambling in the market, and it was all based on fake news.
So I would not think you would lose everything because it goes up and down. But if you are leveraged enough, yes, you could lose a lot of money.
Sure you could.
It's
Yeah.
actually the strange thing about this hack is that there's not a lot of victims that are direct. Like if I go to a bank, rob the bank, you're gonna have a direct victim.
Mhm.
When I manipulate the stock price of something, it's a lot of people who lose a tiny bit on their transaction. They could have
Unless
sold
they
that
go
one
big. Unless they go big, unless they're day
unless
traders. Yeah.
unless you're fully committed. But again, don't put all your money on one trade. That would
Right.
be a financial 101 advice. But yes, but it's mainly that it's more spread, and that's also one of the reasons where you don't usually have a lot of plaintiff, because it's actually spread and it's more a challenge for the company and the market. And also some people, they stay in that parallel world where the fake news is actually real. Maybe
Hmm.
there's someone out there still thinking that Adidas named a co-CEO.
They could.
Yeah.
So the bad guys in this case are social activists who are behaving in a certain way. And I know there are going to be some listeners that say they may be doing a bad thing, but for a good cause. And that's fine. I don't want to get into that argument here. It's still a bad thing for the point of this discussion. And just old fashioned bank robbers, people that are trying to get money
Yeah.
out of the deal. So I hear the inspiration for Wiztrust. Tell me how, which is blockchain based.
Yes.
Tell me how Wiztrust addresses this and helps solve this problem.
Okay. It's easy, and surprisingly, it's even 101 by design. So the way we've done it is that a press release is usually a piece of information. Most of the time, it's a PDF.
Yep.
Sent by the company saying this is our statement. That PDF is a unique file. Like everything that is unique, you can have a fingerprint of it. So the equivalent of our fingerprint for the PDF is the metadata, where it has been created, on which computer, what is the size, there's like all this information make that piece of information unique. So we take those metadata from that file and we save that exactly like a fingerprint at the cop shop, the cop office, the
Police office, police department.
police office. Thank you. So we take that metadata and we store it on the blockchain for everyone to check. But then when you receive the document, you go on wiztrustprotect.com and then you put back your documents, you drag and drop it, and it would say, oh yeah, it matched. We have that fingerprint in our folder. It's actually a real document emitted by that company. So I can say for sure that it is true. This is the original. So again, one drag and drop from our clients' users, like very large corporation, to say this is ours on one side. And you're a financial institution, you're a journalist, you're a trader, you go on the other side, you put that document before making your trade or before writing your article and say, yes, it is authentic, or no, I don't know. And the no, I don't know leaves you back to the place you were before. You have to check. But the fact that we say yes or no, and if it's a no, we say you have to check, it's kind of a protection anyway.
I love it. So now your job, and you're in PR, your job is to make sure the journalists, the financial institutions and traders,
Yes.
and your partners are all aware that this exists and adopt this tool, and to some extent make the general public aware. Not that they're welcome to use the tool if they want, but they're more likely to respect that they need to look at what the financial institution has said. Hopefully they respect the journalists, and that's a whole other episode, that are looking at this. how are you going about making sure that those key audiences are aware that the tool exists? Podcasts obviously fit within there.
Exactly. So first of all, when we sell the product, there's the cost of that product, building it, running every print that we put on the blockchain, pay our due, because the way blockchain works is that to put a piece of content in it, you have to do a transaction and you have to pay. So we have a fee for every documents that we save.
Sure.
And then we put on top of that a cost of explaining, teaching. And actually, that's where I'm here. I spend a bit of time every week explaining that challenge, either through podcast, either going directly into press institution and seeing the journalists explain how they got duped in the first other cases, not of course them, but other colleague, and tell them how they can protect. So as you are right, education is a big part of it. We usually don't focus on end users, like sorry, not end users, but consumers, because we are very professional. If journalists don't pick up, if financial institutions don't pick up, then the risk that you do trade on that information is very low. So if we manage to block it before it becomes mainstream, before it actually gets somewhere else, then usually we're fine. So we really worked on that first line, and we spend a lot of time doing it. And it's actually a very interesting job because it's, I would say, very fun stories, like all these hack stories, the way the company got manipulated, create a lot of interest. And it's quite fun to explain them to our audiences. And I love doing it. So it's part of the job. It's part of our mission to work on that aspect.
You know, sometimes when I see something in the news or on social media, and it actually happens a lot, not just sometimes, but I think, oh, that can't be real. And I'll go to Snopes.com. I don't know if you're familiar with Snopes.com, but it's a site where they will look into whether something is a bogus claim and whether it's fake. You're kind of becoming the Snopes.com for these news releases to make sure that they're authentic and from the company that issued the news release. I think
the
this
difference is that we work on technology and not human work, so we
That's
can
irrefutable. Yes.
Yes, we can be fast also. Like it can help. It doesn't slow the transaction down.
The
It doesn't
blockchain
slow.
technology here is really key, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And it's not that it really matches the need. It's transparent. It's not owned by us. And it's very efficient. So in the end, it was a perfect technology, and we're quite happy to have large company. I didn't talk a lot about our software company, but we are working with some of the largest company worldwide, like Schneider, Disney,
Schneider Electric.
L'Oreal,
Yeah.
a lot of insurance and bank in Europe, like BNP, AXA, Allianz. This is all our clients. And by getting this network, we also have a repeated presence towards journalists and financial institutions. Because if you, for example, trade on banks, we have 10 clients in that industry. So you'll get exposed to us 10 times during the year, or 20 times or 30 times. So in the end, that's also how we educate. We create a cluster of usage in one industry. And then when we reach a level of knowledge that is good enough, then we can move to another. So we've done banks, we've got real estate, we've got very financial asset manager type of company. So we're growing slowly, but strongly on those verticals, because as soon as you get enough knowledge, then you are efficient, then you get used enough and you create enough value.
As you're listening, if you work in public relations or marketing for a large corporation and you have a corporate security officer, I would think this is a tool that corporate security might be interested in checking out. So I think they'd love the link to this episode. Raphaël, thanks for this.
You're welcome. And I'm happy to meet them. Sorry, Duke, but if they have a need like this, I'm available. Part of the teaching, whether they buy it or not. But it's becoming very strong. And just two other very funny, but and then it's just gonna give you nuggets for your listener to go dig online. But it happens to BlackRock. and the media who picked the fake CEO newsletter was actually the Financial Times. It happens to Starbucks activism saying they would not make clients paid for non animal milk.
Mhm.
The next morning, it was crazy in all the shops because no one wanted to pay their 50
My
cents.
free soy. Where's my free soy?
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And so there's a lot of amazing example. If you start digging in on the web, you'll see, unfortunately, for the large companies, the bigger you're known, the more your brand is loved, and the more you have a risk of being.
Perfect. Thank you so much for your time. Merci bien pour votre temps. Did I say that right?
You said that right. It was a pleasure. And if you stop by, I'll stop for the keynote in Canada with pleasure. If by any other chance you come to Amsterdam, I'll have you do a boat tour around the canals if they're not frozen.
Oh, that's a date. That's a date. Thank you so
Perfect.
much, Raphael.
It was a pleasure. Thanks, Doug.